Hello and welcome to a demonstration of Device42. My name is Jason. I will be walking you through a production and presentation of Device42, what we are doing, what our goals are for utilizing Device42, and what we like to focus on, how we're going to best help your day-to-day operations, what we like to do, and what's really cool about Device42. So just to start off, just a quick diagram of really what our primary goal is, what we think Device42 is strong at, and why you came to Device42. To sum it up, we are a strong discovery solution that can automate updating the devices, switches, routers, servers, all the elements that make up the infrastructure of an enterprise environment, of your data center environment, whether that's cloud, virtual, physical hosts, your racks and connections, and the power utilization within those data centers. We have multiple different discovery methods. And what this diagram shows, the different feature sets and modules we make available. Our core product is made up of that large infrastructure, that physical infrastructure to the OS layer, and all of our auto discovery methods are available in the core product. And on top of that, we layer software licensing, software discovery, service discovery, and application discovery on top of the automated discovery of your devices. And we can show the relationships of services like Java and what applications those services might be fueling, whether it's Oracle, Cold Fusion, SQL, Apache. And we automate, connect to your host remotely without any agents, pull that data in and build out different topology maps of that data. And that's what I'm going to be walking you through today, and then how that data is organized and what visualizations we make of that. So this is the dashboard of Device42, and users may have different experiences with that dashboard. It's a multi-tenant environment, so what data is available to one user may not be that same data. They might have permissions to different buildings. Global searches to quickly find any key terms, any devices, locations, users, software that you might want to navigate to. So to get into how we're populating that data, how we're automating that and connecting to your environments today. So we have tools in auto discovery, and these are our remote discovery methods. Quite a few that we make available were rather unique in that we can talk to and touch any layer that makes up an environment in today's infrastructure. That being, we typically suggest starting with networking SNMP. Rather straightforward auto discovery designed to target your switches, routers, firewalls, even load balancers like F5 and NetScaler. So you would set up a unique job name, enter an IP address of a switch in your environment, and a read-only community string. You can use v3, even all the common protocols would be supported here. And you have some granular features. Maybe you have VRF groups or a subnet that you want this data that's found to fall into. You can do different things like that. And organizing port types, VLANs. Some of these options are going to change depending on the auto discovery method that you are using, but they primarily follow the same structure. So Device42 is point-in-time discovery. So depending on how dynamic your environment is, will determine how often you want these discovery jobs to run. And as you can see, you can define different schedules, how often you want those to run. If you're having new connections made every day, you may want this to run multiple times a day, or once a day, a couple times a week. You can completely define however often you want that to be. As flexible as you want it, Device42 is as up to date as your last auto discovery. So all of our discovery methods use common protocols: SNMP, IPMI, SSH, WMI, and they run from the Device42 appliance. Some cases we can also use vendor APIs to connect to solutions like VMware, CitrixN, KVM, Amazon AWS, Microsoft Azure, OpenStack. So these will allow you to do things like target your vCenter server. We'll pull in all the ESX hosts on vCenter as well as the virtuals on those ESX hosts. We know how dynamic a virtual environment is. Device42 can automatically find what virtual exists on what ESX host, keep that up to date, tell you the last time that was on, it was updated, and you can view any history elements, changes to that and even set up different reports, webhooks to send whenever there's a new change, all sorts of automation elements that you can include with that. On top of that, do have a few external auto-discovery methods. These come into play when you are looking to get more details from your OSs. So we have a Windows .NET based application, and this is what that looks like. This allows you to target Windows, Unix, Linux, all flavors of Linux and Unix supported in there, as well as Hyper-V, SCCM discovery built into this tool. So in this, similar to the discovery jobs I showed on the website, just a different view, you will be targeting IP range, CIDR block, a list of individual host names, or even a domain server, and you can use LDAP queries to filter by OS, filter by names of the computers in your domain environment. So as flexible as you need this to be, and you can select multiple credentials to use to connect to that host. So really straightforward discovery tools. Once you set them up the first time, they'll run as back-end processes, as schedules, and keep your environment up to date. So you won't have to come back and modify these auto-discovery jobs very often at all, only if you have a new network, new data center that needs to be scanned in for the first time. Now to show you how we structure that data and what we build out for that data. So one of our strong suits, as I mentioned, we can discover services and applications running on those hosts too. And to show you what that looks like, we have what we call a topology map. So I could go to any device and select topology or impact charts for switch impact list, and I'll be showing some of those different variations too. What I just pulled up is a topology map. This is our application dependency mapping feature or enterprise application discovery, what we can build with that, or with services discovery. One of the few relational features we make available. So we automatically connect to those hosts. You can see I have an Oracle database server here, downstream connection, 2 different devices, and we have an upstream connection as well. So we'll show those relationships if we can connect, and at the time we see a service running or a port that's open. With that connection, we'll build that relationship. And this is what we call the local pane or global pane on the left side, and the local pane on the right side. And the local pane shows you a more detailed view. We can see a port, service, and the application itself. So we have Oracle running on this server and the config file of that application showing port, protocol that's being used for that. And then we can drill down and see in that view, we're going to another server here. I can expand that out. And this is running our middleware. We've got an Apache Tomcat server running on here. I can go further down, our web server. And we saw our web server has a cluster of different web server applications, including Apache, Postgres, and a few services and who's connecting to that. So with that auto discovery method, whether this might have ran a few times to see those different services, we're automatically building out that application stack. So we just saw high tier database, some middleware, and our presentation applications. They may very well make up our application stack for finance or accounting or these critical business processes. Device42 just remotely connected to those servers and found that data. So if you now need to move that to a new data center, you know exactly what's impacted by that, or you're moving those applications to a solution like ACS, all sorts of different use cases that can do that. And now that I'm viewing this, maybe I want an Excel diagram. We have a few people in our environment that like to work in Excel sheets. You can absolutely do that. It's just one way of consuming the data in Device42. You can click on Service Dependency Report, get a dump of that same data for listeners and clients in Excel sheet. And we also have an extensible REST API. So very different ways to consume that data. None of the data you discover or add is locked into Device42. So I can at any point go to Tools, Imports, Exports, what object I want to see. I just want a list of every single device I have in Device42 that's racked. I can download current data. It's going to give me an XLS file of that output. So to talk a bit more on that data structure, our different configuration items, if you're from the world of CMDB, we show it in a object hierarchy, highest level being buildings. And from there, you can drill down to rooms. And rooms is actually where we have a logical layout of your data center. So I'm just going to pull up a bookmark of our room layout. And you can bookmark any page too. We have quite a few different quality of life features within Device42. Really expansive product in general. So from this layout, I can add rack diagrams, see a heat map of racks that are near full capacity, green near empty, even connecting to power units through SNMP, pulling in the in-feed and outlet data, and we'll show that in the power utilization. So I can see the in-feeds and outlets of a selected rack. We're connecting through SNMP to get that data. You can even set up alerts. Maybe you want to be alerted when a sensor or a PDU reaches a certain outlet level, or if a PDU goes offline, we'll send an email alert to whatever parties you define in that alert as well. And you can see historical data, see how much power is being utilized by that, and query that with an API that could send to another solution that you're actually using to calculate the cost of that power utilizations. You can even track that in Device42. You can actually add purchases, add your different contracts, and track the cost for those elements. So right from the room layout, I can drill down then to see that rack. And this is going to include all the devices I've auto-discovered. So their hardware models, I can then define the hardware models with what image to use for that device. It all really straightforward configure. Once I've defined that hardware model, it'll give me the rack specifications for it. I can define any rack size I may use, whether that's 42U, 50U. If these devices are half a U or half depth, any sort of configuration is possible to reflect here. And possible to manipulate in mobile devices too. We support mobile devices natively. So if you'd rather use this in a tablet, when you're in the aisles of a data center, you can absolutely do that. Then if I'm looking to see the physical connections within that rack, I can just select from that view. It's going to give me network in blue, power in black, and I can see those connections as well. I can turn on edit mode here and just drag and drop diagram new connections from patch to device. I can actually go to the rack list view over here, data center racks. And then in any list, filter by different relational objects. I can add tags, filter by tag that we might have for a project or for department, whatever the case may be. You can feel free to add any tag you want, any way that you might want to organize your data. But in this case, I want to work with the data center I'm currently in. I'm going to filter by, we're working with the New Haven data center. I'm going to see all those racks in New Haven. I can select multiple devices here. Use the action drop-down menu. Again, get data to CSV, to XLS, get an audit export of those racks really easily. In this case, I want to view multiple rack connections. Click go, and it's going to generate that same view, except for multiple racks, and I can view that image layout of those racks as well if I wanted to. So now what this allows me to do is maybe we have patch panels above the racks, and I want to do cross connects or visualize those cross connects that are above the racks as well. I can select those that start diagramming them or just see them and build those connections out. Many different ways of populating that data. You don't have to do it visually. You can do it from a form. You can import CSV or XLS data. If you're using SolarWinds or you're using rack tables, or you can get that data out. We have some integrations built for those solutions and import in that way as well. Feel free to check out the website for those integrations or reach out to us if you have any questions on those. So now to drill down to what a device configuration item looks like. What do we actually collect for devices from AutoDiscovery? So this is a ESX host within our environment. It's also a Dell DRAC host. So we're using other SNMP discovery, which supports IPMI over SNMP, and we're using our vServer discovery against it. So of course we get hardware model, serial, UUID. Those are critical items to being able to inventory that host. Then in properties, quick summary details of the hardware in it, what OS, what interfaces are assigned to it, and what IP addresses is it currently using. And then we'll have things like parts. Automatically add hard disk, CPU, memory to the device. You can track that in your inventory, keep a full inventory of your part, reserve parts for that device. So if I change it to edit here, I can add a part. Maybe I want to reserve. I can click on the search option here and select a RAM that I want to reserve for this host. And I'm going to reserve a count of 5 and say they're currently in a storage room and what storage room they're located in, and save that. And it'll audit that change. It's going to add that to the inventory. So I may have schedule reports that'll give a breakdown of how many parts we have installed on devices, how many are in storage, where they're located in storage, what's our total count. And you can even set up alerts to trigger for part changes and any different variables, lifecycle events too. So at the time you change that part, you're installing that RAM, add a lifecycle event for it, or use an existing one. So I could do something like decommissioned, and I wanted to clear IPs, clear connectivity, and remove the device from the rack or add it to storage. That's all available as well. So rather than taking those individual actions, I define those in the event, and it does that for me. And I can say what end user was responsible to that. Select any here. We have a laptop that's checked out to them, or a server in development. We want to assign it to that developer. You can track all that here in the contracts, warranties, add them to an existing order. What vendor is that from? Whatever the case may be. Maybe I'm looking to track our cloud instances. What's the cost of this server in AWS, or all of our instances for a certain region? I can build those contracts, set up the recurring values for them. So this is an abbreviated view of that. When I create it here, it's going to add that purchase, and this device is going to get added as a line item to that purchase as well. So all of these different elements, parts, purchases, even ports and connections, they're all their own pre-configured configuration items that are relational to each other. So you don't have to define your own CMDB and your own variables for these. Device42 has that built for you in a logical way. But maybe our out-of-the-box attributes don't allow you to track something that you might track internally. You can add a custom field for that. Any object, device, subnet, rack, you can add a custom field for it. And this is where it'll show here too. So that can be something as simple as just a text value that you're adding text to, or maybe it is a related type. So if you're looking to add a custom field, you can go to Tools, Custom Field, Devices. We can see the ones that we already have existing. I can add a new one, type text, just a number or date, or related field. So maybe this device, we want to relate to another object. We want to relate it to a subnet, so we can see what subnet it's assigned to. However you might address that, and you can give the title of that custom field and make it filterable. So when you're on the list view, filter by the values of a custom field, and you can query it in the API, and you can include them in reports. So no difference in the functionality from a custom field that you added or to what's built into the objects in Device42 out of the box. So to go back to our rack layout, just to navigate into some of the additional options we make available in the core product. So of course, on top of all this data that's auto-discovered, your devices, you need to know where in the network they're residing, how much of a subnet is available from them. And we do that through SNMP, through the different discoveries. We piece together all that data. So one cool visualization we do to see how these devices are related to each other, we have switch impact charts. So similar to the topology, but this is in the core, quick reference for your switches. So I can see that source switch I just selected, any source ports, remote ports, patch panels, the devices on those connections, any switches. I can double click any of these elements, a patch panel port, switch, device, navigate right to the details page, see exactly what's on it. So if I'm looking to see, I go to any of these devices and I want to see what services or applications on there, I can just double click it, view the topology, and then get that application stack map I showed in the beginning here to see exactly what else relies on the higher layer of those devices. So we can go from your physical layer all the way up to the applications responsible in your environment. Then two in the IPAM, just to show that structure a bit further. This is our subnet tree, and it just gives a great view of how we structure our IPAM. So we have, we call VRF groups at the highest layer. And within the VRF groups, we nest the subnets, and we nest any parent and child subnets automatically when they're supplied with the VRF group. You can see the current IP addresses that are assigned to devices, and as you auto-discover them, will automatically relate the IP address to it. So you can see what interface, what device host name is assigned to that. And if I'm looking to expand this network, click Add New Subnet, you can type in some mask bits here, suggest subnet, it's going to automatically calculate an address for me. I can also just click from the next suggested options and see how many IP addresses are available. Or I can use a subnet usage tree, see all possible combinations, red what's allocated, green what's available, expand that out, see where exactly we can bring that network to. And this is all available through our API. Maybe you're using something like Chef, Puppet, Ansible. You want an automated way for them to query a subnet, see what the next available IP address is. Device42 can field those. We can even talk to Puppet or Chef, pull in the node data, and in your build process, automatically populate Device42, or something like Ansible, have it query a subnet, see what devices are there, and have it build its run lists and cookbooks from that data. So you can set up your own custom queries to fuel your build processes with our API, with our webhooks, and the different integrations we make available. And something we throw in with the core product too, passwords. Really straightforward password vault. So anything that you might have and you want to relate to a device or application, you can store it locally within Device42. It's all 256-bit AES encrypted. You define who has view or edit permissions to it, what groups have it. So it's all incredibly secure. Anytime I show or modify a password, add an expiration date, link it to a device or application, that's all kept in history. So I can go to this password. And to give you an idea of our audit logs, we audit everything on a database level. So any auto-discovery change, any API change, user change, it's all logged within Device42. We can see a timestamp of that. We can see that the cloud discovery recently accessed that password, so it's got to access it to use that and test against the AWS environment we're discovering. So we can see all those elements. So I can click on the timestamp, see what the original value was, what it was changed to, and this is what our webhooks are used to trigger as well. So anytime it sees that audit change of a content type for a defined webhook, it'll send out to StackStorm, and it sees that this server just got a new IP address. StackStorm will create a JIRA ticket. That's the sort of automation that Device42 supplies, and what our huge focus is. What's so great about Device42 is building into your existing systems and your processes to work for you. You don't have to work around Device42. Device42 will work for you, and it's very flexible, and we want this to work in any customer environment. So this is a quick demonstration of our discovery, how we structure some of that data. Device42 is incredibly expansive. We have quite a few modules, including power monitoring, environmental control, software license management if you're looking to discover software, keep an inventory of the licenses, and then the service discovery and application discovery. And our core, as you see, a core product is incredibly expansive. I did touch on the service discovery and application discovery. That's part of our topology. So if you have any questions on these, feel free to reach out to us. If you want to go into more detail on any elements, any use cases, feel free to schedule a more personal demo. We're always happy to work with you, get feedback, and assist you with the trial. You can download right on the website today and use all the features I made available. So definitely don't take our word for it. Download Device42, get it set up. You'll find that the installation is generally quicker than the download in many cases, and we'll be happy to work with you and in your environment to get everything auto-discovered using Device42 and start making your lives easier in your daily operations. Thanks for checking us out. Have a great day.